welcome back to season two. Season two of reading Jane Austen. Season two of just reading. This is the second season. We are going to read. God, that sun. It's just going to creep through this bay window. We're going to read this time around Sense and Sensibility. Beautiful film with Kate Winslet and Emma Thompson and Alan Rickman and Hugh Grant. And I think there was a. This is so funny. 95 was a big year for Jane Austen picks. And then later in mid 2000s, they were like, let's remake this, new technology. And they weren't as good except for the Pride and Prejudice. But it's interesting, the battles, the Jane Austen 90s versus 2000 battles. This is a beautiful book. It's like canvas. And I don't know about anybody else's Sense and Sensibility books, but maybe because it's the first-ish one she wrote, there's a whole intro here. Like, this is when the book starts, and this is a whole intro, and there's a timeline of Jane Austen. There's a chronology, and it's like I should have had this in the beginning. In 1775, Jane Austen was born on December 16th, the second daughter and seventh child of Reverend George Austen and his wife Cassandra Lee. Her father was rector of the village of Steventon in Hampshire. The family was well connected, although not rich. Two of her brothers entered the Navy, and one of them rose to the rank of admiral of the fleet. During the American Revolution, probably, and the French Revolution, but listen to this. 1776, American Declaration of Independence. These were all the questions that I had. In 1778, Frances Burney published Evelina. I don't know why that's in there. I don't know who that is. In 1785 to 86, Austen with her sister Cassandra attended the Abbey School in Reading. God, I forget how to say it. It's Reading. In 1787, Austen started to write the short, parodic pieces of fiction known as her juvenilia. In 1789, French Revolution broke out. That's what I was wondering. And that's Marie Antoinette and Napoleon. Right. In 1792, Mary Wollstonecraft published A Vindication of the Rights of Women. Whoa. In 1793, Britain at war with revolutionary France. I was wondering, okay. In 1794, Anne Radcliffe published The Mysteries of Udolpho. In 1795, Austen wrote Eleanor and Mary Ann, the first version of Sense and Sensibility. 1796, The Rise of Napoleon Bonaparte in France. 1796 to 97, Austen wrote First Impressions, which was a first version of Pride and Prejudice. She was writing. 1797, First Impressions was offered to a publisher who refused it. 1798 to 99, Susan, which was an early version of Northanger Abbey, which I know nothing about but will be reading, was written. In 1801, Austen's father retired and the family moved to Bath. 1802, the very next year, Austen accepted a proposal of marriage from Harris Bigwither. Hot name, Harris Bigwither, but changed her mind the very next day. The following day, she changed her mind. In France, Napoleon appointed consul for life. Appointed consul for life. I don't know what that means. 1803, Susan, which was the Northanger Abbey? Yeah. Sold for £10 to publisher Crosby, who did not publish it. Whoa. The next year, 1804, Austen wrote an unfinished novel, The Watsons, and Napoleon was crowned emperor. I love that they're adding that in. In 1805, Austen's father died. Battle of Trafalgar. 1807, Austen moved with her mother and sisters to Southampton. 1809, Austen moved with her mother and sister to a house in a village of Chawton in Hampshire, owned by her brother Edward. Good name. Which was her home for the rest of her life. 1811, Sense and Sensibility was published. The illness of King George III caused the Prince of Wales to be appointed Prince Regent. Yeah, I've been reading something about Prince Regent. Like, he really liked her stuff. 1813, Pride and Prejudice was published. 1814, Mansfield Park, published. Wow. 1815, December, Emma was published and dated 1816 and dedicated at his request to the Prince Regent. That's what I was reading about. Maybe it was in here. Wellington and Blucher defeat French at the Battle of Waterloo, bringing to an end the Napoleonic Wars. In 1816, Austen's health started to deteriorate and she finished Persuasion. Susan bought back from Crosby. She bought that book back. Walter Scott reviewed Emma flatteringly in the Quarterly Review. In 1817, from January to March, Austen at work on Sanditon. She died on 18 July in Winchester, where she had gone for medical attention and was buried in Winchester Cathedral. In December, her brother Henry oversaw the publication of Northanger Abbey and Persuasion, dated 1818, with a biographical notice of the writer. I'd love to read this little introduction too, just to like share with everyone what's in this book. I don't know if these are all already in all of the books and everybody already knows it. So this is the introduction for Sense and Sensibility. In a letter dated Thursday, 25 April 1811, which is when this was published, Jane Austen responded to an inquiry from her beloved sister Cassandra about progress in the forthcoming publication of her first novel. No, indeed, I am never too busy to think of S&S. I can no more forget it than a mother can forget her sucking child. Oh, these are like children to her. She had like 6 children. That's really cute. It is appropriate that Austen should refer to this novel, preoccupied as it is with maternal affection and priorities as her suckling child. Like its second heroine, Marianne Dashwood, Sensibility was not the firstborn of its mother's children. However, it was the focus of her maternal anxiety because it was the first to appear in print. This was her second, possibly third, completed novel. Pride and Prejudice was offered to the publisher Cadell under the title First Impressions. In November 1797, the same month that Austen began writing Sense and Sensibility in its final form. Austen was to use the metaphor of mothering again, this time for Pride and Prejudice, which she termed my own darling child. Oh my God. In a letter of Friday 29 January 1813, Northanger Abbey, under the title Susan. Oh, she's naming them after people. That's really cute, like they are children. Was written from 1798 to 99 and sold to the publisher Crosby & Co. in spring 1803, where it languished until Henry Austen bought it back a year before his sister's death. Which of these 3 early children came first in conception and completion is not clear. Family tradition had it that an early version of Sense and Sensibility was written in the form of a novel in letters. Wow. And read aloud to the family as early as 1795. This is so sweet. Little sweet Jane Austen reading little letters out loud and then making it a novel. This would make it the oldest of Austen's full novels, although she had already experimented with fragments of narrative prose in her juvenile work. According to Cassandra Austen, Sense and Sensibility falls second and was begun in November 1797, just a few months after the completion of First Impressions, Pride and Prejudice. She did, however, comment, I'm sure that something of this same story and character had been written earlier and called Eleanor and Marianne, presumably a reference to the earlier epistolary draft of the novel. The appearance of the two names so similar to those used in the novel, Elizabeth Steele and Edmund Ferrars, in connection with Hampshire marriages advertised in the Bell Assembly of March 1810 suggest that Austen was revising the novel sometime after completing the completed manuscript of Susan had been sold to other publishers, and therefore the latter's claim to seniority over the former is also strong. It is precisely such issues of primary and secondary order and attachment for children and partners that organize and regulate the domestic plot of Sense and Sensibility. As her sister Eleanor points out, Marianne Dashwood's unshakable belief that men and women should only love once means that logically her own existence as a second daughter of a second marriage faults her precept. However, Marianne can be forgiven for experiencing her position as primary in her family in the story that unfolds around her, and without Marianne's knowledge, around her sister. For Marianne, everything that happens in the novel happens first to her. Oh, this is going to be helpful for me to read this. She is the first sister to fall passionately in love, the first sister to discover that her lover is pre-engaged, and the first to struggle to conquer her emotion. The novel, in its narrative sequence of events, however, reminds its reader that this is the second child's wish fulfillment. Oh, we and Eleanor know that Marianne's experiences are no more than a repetition of those of her elder sister. The confusion over order and priority in Sense and Sensibility may be ascribed to the significant absence of paternal authority in the families which are its focus. Sense and Sensibility stands alone amongst Austen novels in its almost total exclusion of fathers from the scene of action. Whoa. That's interesting. Sense and Sensibility stands alone among Austen novels in its almost total exclusion. I just read that. Whoa. The father of every adult child who has to make decisions over matrimony in this novel, the Dashwood and the Steele sisters, the Farrar brothers, Willoughby, Eliza Brandon, is either dead or absent. For the Dashwood sisters and the Farrars brothers, it is a mother who has sole parental authority over them, and Sense and Sensibility is full of, indeed overcrowded with, mothers. Most often, mothers are criticized for indulging their children, whether as a result of too little sensibility, Fanny Dashwood, Lady Middleton, Mrs. Ferrars, or too much, Mrs. Dashwood. Specifically, it is an unwitting preference for a child on the basis of similarity to the mother, which results in this unequal treatment. Mrs. Jennings, Mrs. Dashwood, and Mrs. Ferrars all prefer their second child to their first. And in each case, this seems to be because the second child is more like the mother. Whoa. Of Marianne, we are told that the resemblance between her and her mother was strikingly great. Like his mother, Robert Ferrars is proud and ignorant. Like hers, Charlotte Palmer is affectionate but silly. Maternal love is then criticized as a form of unthinking narcissism. In each case, oh my God, heavy. Whoa. In each case with the symmetry in the novel that many have admired and others have chafed at, the second child repeats the experience of the mother. Marianne Dashwood gives her heart to a man who has already loved another. Robert Ferrars becomes wealthy and proud, though accident rather than personal merit. Through accident rather than personal merit. Charlotte Palmer settles into a life of domestic comfort and personal insensitivity. And Eliza Williams is seduced and abandoned. This is heavy. Most of Sense and Sensibility is rendered through the personal third-person discourse of Eleanor. Oh. But Austen chooses to deploy an impersonal third-person narrative voice at a number of intervals in order to make general comments of motherhood. So there's a narrating voice, and there is the voice of Eleanor mostly. Interesting. In the opening pages, we encounter our first tyrannical child, in the shape of Harry Dashwood, who becomes the major beneficiary of his uncle's will by such attractions as are by no means unusual in children of 2 or 3 years old. An imperfect articulation, an earnest desire of having his own way, many cunning tricks, and a great deal of noise. Children make adults credulous throughout Sense and Sensibility. The Steele sisters become agreeable to Lady Middleton because a fond mother, though in pursuit of praise of her children, the most rapturous of human beings, is likewise the most credulous. Eleanor's truthful response to a debate about the respective heights of Harry Dashwood and William Middleton in the latter's favor makes her yet more unpopular with her prospective mother-in-law and sister-in-law, and Mr. Palmer's maintenance of the common but unfatherly opinion among his sex of all infants be alike raises the ire of his mother-in-law, Mrs. Jennings. Austen had long been preoccupied with questions of maternal responsibility. The satirical perspective that she took in her Juvenilia on the reality of maternal behavior and on the alternative ties of sibling love acquired a more specific political meaning in the 1790s when she was composing Sense and Sensibility, as will be discussed later. Whoa. Jack and Alice, a comic piece of Juvenilia, written between 1788 and 1793, includes an early discussion of the respective merits of first and second attachments in the words of maternal surrogate and the widowed Lady Williams to the heroine Alice Johnson. A later unfinished work, Lady Susan, probably composed around 1793-94, takes the form of a series of letters exposing the villainy of an unloving mother defeated in the pursuit of a lover by her unlike daughter. That readers tend to find the eponymous. I know I've looked it up already too. Hold on. What's it mean again? I forgot. It doesn't do you any good to look it up if you don't remember it, but I do need to get a dictionary, that's right. Oh.
Eponymous.
Eponymous, like hippopotamus. Giving their name to something. Named after a particular person. Eponymous. E-pony. Eponymous heroine and principal letter writer, the only figure of substance and fascination, may also provide a clue as to the reasons for Austen's eventual abandonment of the letter form for Sense and Sensibility. Mary Poovey suggests that the letter form tended to encourage sympathy with the egotism and indulgence of desire that Austen wished to censure, and draws our attention to the fact that all the heightened scenes of emotion in Sense and Sensibility are delivered second-hand. The story of the two Elizas is delivered by Brandon after his passion for the first has become a fond memory. The encounter between Marianne and Willoughby at the ball is delivered through Eleanor. It's only through the establishment of narrative distance, through the device of either hindsight or the part of protagonist, or the displacement of the narrative voice from the protagonist to an observer, that events acquire the sort of perspective which can promote judgment rather than identification on the part of the reader. A number of these narrative elements in Sense and Sensibility were also making second appearances, at least having been tried and tested before. The Visit, a comedy in 2 acts, employed a hero named Willoughby, and Lady Bridget Dashwood is mentioned in letter the second of a collection of letters. However, it is not just names, but ideas that are first tested out in Austen's Juvenilia. The contrast between Sense and Sensibility figures large in love and friendship, a comic tale told through letters by an elderly heroine of Sensibility, Lara, to the daughter of a friend named Marianne about her youth. Here, the first person of the letter is deployed to expose the selfish indulgence that lies beneath the seeming warmth of sensibility. The heroine of Sensibility, Laura, is satirically exposed in this way when she complains about the lack of sensibility shown by her lover lover's sister, Augusta. Wow. It's a lot. This is a big, huge introduction. Wow. So much to learn. So much to think about. I'll just read this last part of this introduction. And I might just try to, you know what I might do? I might read the rest on my own and try to summarize it. Because that would help me with reading comprehension. Because I don't even know what I've read so far. There's something satirical about mothers loving themselves and being narcissistic for loving the children that are just like them. Eleanor demonstrates her capacity to feel through the careful modulation of her choice of verbs, from knowing that it would make her family unhappy that she is divided from Edward forever, to proof Edward has not been proved unworthy nor indifferent, to action contending with unkindness and suffering punishment. Significantly, apart from the closing choice of suffering, none of these verbs is in fact part of the vocabulary of feeling, the very quality Eleanor is seeking to convey. Eleanor succeeds, in fact, in substituting the vocabulary of mental and intellectual perception for that of emotional response. Same. Likewise, her creator, who referred to her with the affection as my Eleanor, succeeds in asserting the flexibility of her own vocabulary of moral value in the face of threatened collapse of ethical priorities. A relativistic terminology of comparatives and negatives asserts the security of positive and absolute essences. Ultimately, all that holds sense and sensibility in a productive tension and prevents the collapse of their distinction is no more than another linguistic variant on their common etymological root, the sentence. Wow. I mean, again, never in my dizziest daydreams could I think to write like this. Ross Ballister, Mansfield College, Oxford University. What are we talking about? Sense and sensibility, like having sense, being sensible, not letting your emotions control your actions. Sensibility is the ability to or desire to sense or feel things and give in to your emotions. Sense is Eleanor and Marianne is sensibility. And now all I'm thinking, truthfully, honestly, is which one was Kate Winslet and which one was Emma Thompson? Eleanor is Emma Thompson and Marianne was Kate Winslet. Okay, and Eleanor was the oldest one, and Marianne is the youngest one, and this is from Eleanor's point of view. And then sometimes, okay, why does Eleanor sound like a younger child's name? But also Marianne kind of does too. Those are really cute names, Eleanor and Marianne. Eleanor. That's cute. Okay, I don't know if I have like the stamina to read this whole introduction because it is long and very winded, and I'm already winded thinking about all the things that I should be thinking about while reading this book. I'll read a note on the text. The text is taken from the first edition of Sense and Sensibility, published in 1811 for the author, on commission by Thomas Egerton. Jane Austen was correcting proofs at the home of her brother Henry in 64 Sloane Square, London, in April 1811. Publication of the first edition was advertised in November. In a letter to Francis Austen of 3 July 1813, Austen noted with pleasure that the first edition had sold out and earned her £140 in commission. It had been published at her own expense. Girl, Jane Austen. That's That's incredible. The second edition, which came out in November 1813, July 1813, November 1813, was also published by Egerton and contained a number of corrections and excisions. These changes appear to have been set forth from an amended copy of the first edition, and it is assumed that they were introduced by the author herself. However, the numerous printers' errors in the second edition suggest that she did not proofread the novel after it was set. New errors are therefore introduced in the second edition, and the first edition, in which she appears to have had more involvement, may well be a more accurate version of her original design. Cool! Print runs for the first and second edition are estimated at 1,000 copies each. This edition provides a complete list of textual variants between the first and second editions and a list of those emendations made by the current editor to the text of the first edition for the sake of sense, usually on the authority of the second edition. Sense and Sensibility in 3 volumes by a lady. Volume 1. It just says by a lady. Whoa, you guys. Printed for the author. Okay, volume 1. I can't believe this is going to be 3 volumes. Wow. Here we are. Thank you, Barnes & Noble. I tried to get it at a different local bookstore and they didn't have it. But the lady Janice is really nice. She said, we like Barnes & Noble. We don't want them to go anywhere. And I thought, oh. And she's like, go see if they have Sense and Sensibility. But I did buy Emma and I think Northanger Abbey from her. Trying to shop local. So that was just a little introduction to me. I'm going to be reading this book. I guess I'll do it in a British accent because that feels good to me because it just feels right. But it probably doesn't feel right to other people. But I am going to read it next time. I just wanted to introduce Season 2, Episode 1, coming at you next time, reading Sense and Sensibility. Sensing our feelings, acting on our feelings, sensible and sensibility, and we will be more of both at the end of reading. And we'll see what we can learn, and I'm so excited to be back with me and Jane Austen, little Jane Austen. I need to get crochet, and I need to get a dictionary. Thank you so much. Check those things off my list. Thanks for coming back and listening to me talk at ya. Ta-ta and happy reading. Bye-bye.